The views and opinions expressed on this program are those of the participants and do not reflect the views of BronxNet or the program underwriters.
BronxNet. Your voice, your views, your vision.
Straight ahead on this edition of Perspectives, Mayor-elect Bill de Blasio has appointed a new police commissioner. What exactly does that mean for New Yorkers? That's front and center on this edition of Perspectives with yours truly, Darren Hyman.
Anything relevant to life. Anything relevant to life, you bring it to the table. Whether you make a move solo or a movement with a stable. No fables to speak on your decisions, cause in the long run it's your voice, your views, your vision. Keeping it real with many messages for you to know. This ain't radio, but DJ runs the show. Entertainment, he rocks it. Politics, he locks it. The host with the most would handle any topic. Don't forget to share your perspective, which shines a light, cause it might make a difference in someone else's life. What's your perspective?
Express what's in your heart and your mind. Share your perspective.
What's your perspective?
A single ember from a wildfire can travel over a mile. That ember can ignite and destroy your home or community. You can't control where that ember will land. Only what happens before it does. Visit fireadapted.org to learn how you can help protect your community from wildfires.
Barry, time is running out. According to my calculations, 1 in 5 kids in America struggles with hunger. How can so many children face hunger when there's more than enough food to feed them all?
Babadoo.
You're right, Barry. We can help solve hunger by teaming up with Feeding America to get food to hungry kids in communities across the country.
Help Flint and the Feeding America network of food banks get food to the people who need it in your community. Find your local Feeding America food bank at feedingamerica.org/hunger.
Together, we're Feeding America.
And welcome back to Perspectives. Darren Hyman here with you. When Mayor-elect Bill de Blasio is sworn in at City Hall, we'll have a new police commissioner as well. His name, William Bratton. Many people are familiar with him before. He was a part of the Giuliani administration, and he was also the initiator of part of the initiators of Stop and Frisk. Here now to share more about the appointment of William Bratton to be the new police commissioner is Ms. Joyce Johnson. She's a former city council candidate in the 7th district, and she joins us here in the studio. And good to have you, Joyce.
You too. Nice to be here.
Good. So we hear Mayor-elect de Blasio's position of Stop and Frisk, and then we get a police commissioner's appointment. Mayor-elect William Bratton, former police commissioner, and your thoughts, first of all.
Well, a couple of things. The mayor-elect will be, Bill Bratton was hired by him. And if all of us know that when we are hired by someone, we take orders from them. Bill Bratton will serve at the pleasure of. Bill de Blasio has made it clear that he did not approve of the police tactics. And let's be clear, Stop and Frisk has always been a part of good policing. Under the current administration, it went far beyond what was good policing. And Stop and Frisk, to the extent that you have a probable cause, is good policing. I am sure that these are conversations, or I believe that this is probably a conversation that Bill de Blasio had with Bill Bratton when he decided to hire him.
But
at least I hope that.
But doesn't it seem a little conflicting to New Yorkers to see someone who was, when the Giuliani administration came on, you had Stop and Frisk, and we had the situation with Amadou Diallo and all of those other cases, and many people looked at Bill Bratton and said, you know what, this happens under your watch. Now to bring somebody in who was the part of that initiative.
The architect of
right.
that, yeah. Once again, what was Giuliani administration 20 years ago? Bill Bratton, I think, has had stints in other forums since then, most recently Los Angeles. And I think probably I won't call them mistakes, but the lessons learned from New York, he was from what I see and gather and hear, a different police commissioner in Los Angeles, which is historically, as you know, going back 40 and 50 years, was oppressive in terms of blacks, no community relations, going back to Rodney King. And it seems to me that he was able to turn that around to when leaving there, he had some 80% approval rating. But with that said, I go back to the point, I have managed people, I have hired folks in the past, and when I have hired, the expectation is they will march to my drum beat, as I'm sure Bill Bratton was probably forced to under Giuliani, march to his drum beat. He's got a new start and an administration that values good policing, good community policing, and I'm hopeful that that would be the case, but certainly no one will be bashful if it's not the case.
Mm-hmm. When we look at Ray Kelly, President Police Commissioner, going out the door, a lot of people have a lot of different sentiments. Your take on Commissioner Kelly, because from many people's perspectives, he failed in a lot of areas.
I think he did, and I have really, going back years before the explosion of stop and frisk, I regarded Ray Kelly. He seemed like the common man, the good policeman, whatever. He embraced this stop and frisk to a point where he would not even consider that it was not, they had gone overboard. It took a federal judge. It took marches and rallies and protests and just a general hue and cry of just outrageous numbers. And I think Ray Kelly goes out to this day still believing that it was something that worked. So it goes to the point of, I don't know where it, there was a time back that people thought of Ray Kelly as a probable mayoral candidate. I think he may have as well, going back some 6 or 7, 10 years ago, thereabouts. And from where he was then to where he is now, where arguably, 80% of folks are glad to see him go, there took a turn. I think he believed his own hype. I think he and the mayor in tandem probably believed their own hype, and rather than listening to the community. And the community has never said that we condone violence, we condone lawlessness, we condone bad behavior, illegal anything. But there is a good balance that is always struck. And I think it goes back to Mayor Dinkins and, good community police relationships. And, let's be clear. I was thinking about this as we talking about this program. There used to be a stop and frisk back in the day. But the stop and frisk was Aunt Susie, Uncle Charlie on the street who, before you got home, or they would check you, on the corner if they saw something wrong.
So you're saying the family was the first stop?
The family was the first stop and frisk. The family was the first stop and frisk. And let us be honest about that as well. I have heard so many folks say, the kids today, they're wild, I don't want to talk to them and whatnot. When we give that up, the family the first stop and frisk, and then we leave it in the hands of others to the point of where we were with Ray Kelly in the NYPD. People who don't know us, people who don't live in our communities, stopping and frisking when it used to be us. And the horn was so quick back in the day. You got home and, Aunt Susie, Uncle Jack, Miss So-and-so had already told the parents, and you were in harm's way, and may have been in harm's way by someone having the right to slap you upside your head, collar you, but they were family, the community family.
We talked about Ray Kelly's failures,
yeah.
And you've outlined a few of them. So did he succeed anywhere?
Everything in recent years has been so clouded by the whole stop and frisk mess that I can't recall. I can't recall the good, because I remember, I'm a political person, so we've walked the same beat, if you will, the same meetings and the same churches. And there was a time when Ray Kelly was invited with honor because he was doing a good job. And then along came stop and frisk. I believe he was serving at the pleasure of his mayor that said that I believe that this is the way to go. And I think he fell to, the wishes and wants of his boss, and became consumed about the numbers game. The more you stop and frisk, it must mean that this is successful, because crime indeed was going down. But that was not a direct correlation. No one said that and we all know now the correlation between, throwing a million people up against the wall and crime going down was not a match.
Let me ask this question, because when you have the situation of stop and frisk, you have so many people who said, listen, we'll acknowledge that African Americans, Latinos, minorities were a lot of the proponents of crime. You look at the statistics, you have to...
Disproportionately, there's no question.
Okay,
there's
so
no question.
Where is the alternative to stop and frisk? Because we're hearing people say, I'm against stop and frisk. But where are the alternatives to stop and frisk that can be meaningful as a deterrent to stopping crime?
Well, I started, my first comment was good policing. And what the federal judge, it said, stop and frisk on the basis of probable cause. That's constitutional. If I see something, you just came out of a store and you're packing what might be, an armed, armaments, a gun, or you've got a packet that whatever. There might be some probable cause for me stopping you and checking you out. That's good policing, because Miss Johnson, wants to know that if I've been robbed or some lawlessness has happened, there is, the community. That's what law enforcement does. So I think that's where the breakdown is. And another component of this, and you're going to hear me talk about this more and more, as we, do good community relations and policing, there is an obligation for us to also stop and tell. You can't snitch if you know something's going wrong. And this is our community, because the crime disproportionately is happening where we live, where we walk, where we go to church, in our schools and all of that. We know we have sons, grandsons, granddaughters, and all of that, and nephews and nieces who are carrying guns when they should not be. They should not be. We should not allow them out the house knowing that. And we should be going back to the old time, so the alternative is you don't have to be so draconian and punitive and lawless and unconstitutional with stop and frisk if there's good community relationships. And we also have a responsibility for our kids and our youngsters not being alone.
Take a quick break and continue our conversation with Joyce Johnson. Coming up after the break, we talk about Mayor Bloomberg and Mayor-elect de Blasio. What can we expect in 2014?
Everybody has a dream. Mine was to see the ocean. And with a little help, I made it.
Adopting a new pet is a rewarding experience. And shelter pets make super pets. Your new best friend will steal your heart, bring you happiness, and enrich your life for years to come. You can make a difference in the life of an animal. Adopt and bring home a shelter pet today. To find out more, visit theshelterpetproject.org.
Continue our conversation with Joyce Johnson, and as we're talking in the year 2014, we'll have a new police commissioner, but more importantly, a new mayor in the city of New York. Mayor-elect Bill de Blasio will be sworn in. And when he's sworn in, New Yorkers are going to want to know exactly what's going to happen. Mr. de Blasio ran a campaign on A Tale of Two Cities, And I now pose the question to Joyce. Did New Yorkers really buy, I guess they did, with an overwhelming margin, the Tale of Two Cities? Would you agree that there is a Tale of Two Cities?
Oh, I absolutely would agree. I absolutely agree. In the, let's start with education. And maybe in that context, a tale of one city, because our educational system, for all intent and purposes, has failed majority of our kids. The standards, the so-called successes, the achievement gaps not closed, reading levels, not skyrocketing as we thought. And this was going to be a pillar of Mayor Bloomberg's, in fact, his legacy. His legacy, and his legacy is not what he wanted it to be. So I think the great expectation is coming in from necessarily for new mayor-elect Bill de Blasio, is that an educational system that is both equitable, but that is geared towards high achievement, that resources are allocated based on need, and not just if they're, I was executive assistant to Chancellor Rudy Crew, and there were 32 school districts, and basically you cut up the pie 32 ways. Well, that's one sort of budget, way to have. And then there's a budgeting that says, maybe Scarsdale, maybe not Scarsdale, maybe Northern Manhattan, maybe East Side, maybe parts of Queens. They're doing well and have historically been doing well. And then there are the historic districts that perhaps needs more than just the average, same dollars as another. And so in education, with respect to housing, the affordability, the majority of us honestly cannot afford to live in the city. I still live in what was a Mitchell-Lama on the Upper West Side. Mm-hmm. My rent is one cost that I think reasonable, and across the street a new building, $6,000 for a 2-bedroom apartment.
Well, yeah, that brought to light the question, because I put it up on my Facebook post that a lot of people were excited about the $2 million gift that was given between 120th Street and 138th Street for free Wi-Fi. And you have this tale of two cities, because you have somebody on one side that only makes $300, $400 a week,
right.
And then you've got a $300,000, $400,000 condo right there.
Right.
The question is, who's really benefiting, and who is this really free Wi-Fi really for? Because many of the people that live within that demographic, some of them don't even have internet access.
Exactly, exactly. Don't have the computers, number one, to even access the Wi-Fi. So it's those kinds of practical things, sort of bottom-up approach and not top-down. A lot of, I think, on the Bloomberg administration made various assumptions about our capacity to live, or how we were living. He thought everyone was living like he was, but 98% of us were not. And so he started from a higher bench, not to be heady, but I remember in management classes they talked about hierarchy of needs, and you get to a place where you have a Cadillac, and so you're looking at then the Rolls Royce. But if you down here, when you're walking on the street and don't have a subway, you are living differently than this person up here. So that Rolls Royce does not appeal to you. What appeals to you? No. Give me a bike, give me a scooter, or give me good mass transit, so that I can be the average and let me aspire. But I'm not up here yet. Mm-hmm. And so I think there was a big gap in who's aspiring, those who are rich in ability to get richer, or the rest of us, that 99% who are down here when basic needs aren't being met. And I think that will be the sea change turn. And that's Bill de Blasio's mission. That was his statement of, a tale of two cities. That's my understanding of what that means, and I hope it's his understanding of it.
Do you think we'll see an evening out? I remember a young man who ran on the political side, and his political party was the rent is too damn high. Are we going to see an evening out, do you think?
Well, the market. Why is rent high? Because the only thing that's being built is rise rent is too high. Why the rest of us can't afford to move around. I've lived in Washington, D.C. I lived in Baltimore, Maryland. I have family in Atlanta, Georgia. Whatever your income was, there was housing to match that. Just like with a car, from the Beetle to the Rolls Royce, whatever your income is, that is no longer the case here in New York. If you can't afford $6,000 a month for 2-bedroom, you need not be here. And so how that happened was there was no building of affordability at all of those levels that I talked about. The range. So the kid who grew up here, goes off to college, comes back, they can no longer come back to their hometown. That's crazy. Mm-hmm. Or the middle income, the teacher, the preacher, the retiree who built New York when it was in some parts of our communities that aren't so pristine now, but weren't so 30 years ago. They're being pushed out because we've not built housing at all ranges. We've only built luxury housing. New York has become a global market for real estate. That's nice in one level. That sounds cute on a market-driven whatever. But, New York should be a place where all folks can afford to live.
Do you feel, living on the Upper West Side, seeing what's going on around your neighborhood, that people are being priced out?
Are you kidding me? I moved to the Upper West Side in 1981, Darren. And it was a different neighborhood when I got on my community planning board. I didn't know, and chair of Uniform Services and Environment. It was a lot going on in that neighborhood. And if I can give you an example, I used to come up on the C train, and after 86th Street, there was not a black person on the on the train. I'm looking around like, well, what does that mean? Because I had relocated from Baltimore, so I'm saying, well, what's up with this? My aunt lives in this apartment. What's a nice place and whatever. Mm-hmm. And so it has changed dramatically. The Mitchell-Lamas, I was a Democratic district leader, and from 86th Street to 96th Street, you've had like 15 complexes that were affordable. Teachers, scientists, bakers, local folks, young professionals, all living mixed income, mixed neighborhood, affordable. Then the Mitchell-Lama program went belly up. The state did not reauthorize Mitchell-Lama. 90% of those buildings are now luxury, condos, co-ops, or something well beyond any average person's reach. So yes, it has changed.
Well, what do you expect now in 2014 as things have changed? What are your expectations politically in the year 2014 from what can we see from these politicians? Because it's all Democratic, and Democrats will have full swing. So what can we expect? Well,
there is both good in that and bad in it, because when we have it, it's like the Congress. When the president had the House and the Senate, you better fix everything. Same deal. There will not be that tension. There will not be that rub, Mayor Bloomberg versus, the council or whatever. Entire Democratic slate. That is good, and that is bad for those who are saying, well, we've got it now. It's like, be careful what you wish. We have it, and so what folks will be looking for results. The tale of two cities, that gap closing. Education, getting much better. The environment, resources, housing affordability. All of those things are on the plate, so expectations have been raised mighty high. And like most folks, if you've been out, without for a long time, you want a quick fix. But recognizing in all practicality, these are issues that have been long-standing, have been happening for a long time. It will not be fixed overnight, but I would expect to see a steady move towards the equity that we talked about, the closing gaps, the disparity over time. It's going to take some time, and that's why your question about Bill Bratton and even Bill de Blasio. Let us see. I am hopeful. And what I do hope, and this is whether Democrat, Republican, or whatever, I've been a candidate several times, and what I find what folks will do, they get mad and says, oh, they're all the same. I mean, I have defended myself. I'm a nice person. I have defended myself to the highest hell. I said, wait a minute, I am not elected anything. Don't blame me. I didn't do it, whatever. But the point of this is, when we vote them in, And if we're not satisfied, we must be prepared then to vote them out. But we don't do that. You know, the voting is becoming, I mean, this is one of the lowest turnouts. You know, the final debate, between Loder and de Blasio, and even before that, the primary. Fewer and fewer people are voting. They're standing down.
And when I come back, I want to talk to you about some final thoughts about how do we engage people back into that political system.
Yeah.
Should get the final comments from Joyce Johnson when we return right after this here on Perspectives.
Being a dad can be tough.
No. What do you mean she's not coming?
When's the fairy princess coming?
Any minute now.
But when you're willing to do anything...
It is I, Cruz Zinkelbell. Okay, time for cake.
It's always worth it.
I know it's really you, Drew. I'm just pretending for the other kids.
The smallest moments can have the biggest impact on a child's life. Take time to be a dad today. Call 877-4DAD-411 or visit fatherhood.gov.
Look at me. Hey.
Raymond, look at Mommy.
Maybe the light hurts his eyes.
Maybe she's just not hungry. Maybe he can't hear us. Maybe we're not stimulating him enough. Maybe it's a phase.
Avoiding eye contact is one early sign of autism. Learn the others today. The sooner it's diagnosed, the better.
Back here on Perspectives, getting our final comments from Joyce Johnson. And as we talked about this little apathy.
Yeah.
What are we going to do to get people engaged?
The democratic process. We've got political clubs, and all of us. I was a Democratic district leader. The same people who were in there when I became a district leader 40 years ago, are now older. We're not getting our hands not dirty. We're not going into community. We would rather get elected by my best friends, my building, rather than do the due diligence of going and seriously engaging our community in the right to vote. In schools, we don't have civics. You know, I couldn't, everything I read and whatever from family was like, I could not wait to vote because I thought it made me a big girl. We don't have that anymore. So kids coming out not having a clue of voting, not having a clue of our governmental process. You know, it all begins with our education. It is the marketing that used to be when I'm older, by about a year and a half.
Okay.
The marketing of all this that made it jazzy. You wanted to. We don't do that, and I blame the political structure, and I blame the political structure because they see so much mess in our politics that folks are standing down. Well, it's going to take many of us, and we've got not only the political cycle, we've got nonprofits, we've got our fraternities and our sororities, the need to be on the ground, bringing folks back into the process. I say that as a good member of Delta Sigma Theta.
Congratulations
public
to
service,
that,
thank you.
Well, now listen, before we go out of here, please tell people how they can get in touch with you. Obviously, you ran for city council, and you still got some more on the horizon. Real quickly.
Well, I don't know about on the horizon. I still intend to do some great work because there's much to be done all along the things we're talking about. But I am Joyce Johnson. You can still see my website, www.electjoycejohnson.com. I never change that. I will simply keep it. You'll learn about me even though I'm not doing anything political.
Joyce, thank you so much for coming to share with us.
Thank you. It's a pleasure.
And thank you for watching Perspectives. Take care and God bless. Darren Hyman signing off.